Good morning. Good morning, traders. How are you all today? Karibuni sana. I'm glad to see a lot of people joining us today. Happy to see that. So, for those who are new, my name is Mitch Kaniari and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, during these sessions, we as the Afriforex team analyze the markets, we identify what trading opportunities we'll be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So, as usual, we do have the Afriforex team. They are here in the back office. So feel free to ask anything on the chat box. So make sure any comments that you might have or any suggestions, the team will be there to respond to you. But if you do want to get into contact with us, I think there should be our number, these are our contact details in the video description. So let's jump straight into it. So as usual, we'll start off with our watch list. Now, according to our watch list, as you can see, yesterday we were looking for buying opportunities on the Canadian dollar, the Japanese yen, and the New Zealand dollar. And we're looking to mix and match those three pairs with the pairs on the sell side. So that was the Australian dollar, the British pound, the Swiss franc, the euro, as well as the US dollar. Now, today there has been a slight change. As you can see, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities on the Japanese yen as well as the New Zealand dollar. However, the Canadian dollar did move to the sell side. So our focus is going to be on the Japanese yen and the New Zealand dollar today. And we'll look to mix and match those two pairs with all these other pairs on the sell side. But also one thing to take note of, we can also notice the indices as well as gold and silver, all of them are now on the buy side. That's mainly due to a lot of US dollar weakness, but we will end up having a look at that as well. So before we do jump onto the pairs for today, we'll end up having a look at the pairs that we did have yesterday, what worked, what did not work. Those are mainly the Canadian dollar pairs before we do focus on today's pairs. So in other news, just to take note, we do have a number of fundamentals today. As you can see, we have some high impact news, especially for the British pound. We have some GDP news that is coming out at 10 o'clock. Similar situation with the euro. We have some CPI fundamentals coming out at 10 as well. And during the US session, we also have some jobless claims, continuous jobless claims or initial jobless claims. Ideally, we will end up finding a lot of volatility on both the US dollar, the euro, as well as the British pound. So we will actually be hoping we end up getting some really good opportunities today. So let's focus on yesterday's pairs that did not work out, or at least that we're not going to be looking at today. So we'll start off here with the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar. Yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities, but you can see where the price was early in the morning. You can see that the price was at least within this particular area, holding just below that particular location. Wanted to see whether or not we could get the price giving a probe, as you can see based on this illustration that I had pointed out here. Unfortunately, that did not happen. You can see the price broke to the upside and was actually holding above this particular area. And you can see by the time it pulled back and the time that was at exactly 4 o'clock, the US market opened. And you can see the US big boys really did take this price to the upside. And remember, we did point out once the price reaches this level and we get confirmation that the price is holding above, then ideally this pair does fall off our watch list. Even though we can see it has come back today, this is a pair that could potentially give us issues. And ideally, we do want to end up entering the trade with the highest probability. So the fact that this probability of this trade working out is very low. And that's the reason why we're not going to be focusing on it today. Now, the next pair we did have for the Canadian dollar was the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Now, yesterday we were looking for selling opportunities. Similar situation. You can see that during the market open at 11 o'clock in the London market open, we did get a small move to the downside, could not necessarily move very much lower, but you can see the market did end up giving us a pullback, continuing to go to the upside. Unfortunately, we could not get all the way till our main seller area right there. You can see it just found another location where some sellers were. It seems that these sellers were good enough, and you can notice the time that the price was getting there at around 4, but it started taking off to the downside at around 5:30. That's the New York Stock Exchange open. You can see the price did manage to come down. We have gotten a pullback where you can see this was basically a probe. The market never really broke this level. And you can see that confirmation due to the fact that the price has come back in, and you can see it seems to be holding below this particular area. So even though that does seem like a good sign for a sell, unfortunately for us, this pair will be falling off our watch list. Maybe the British pound pairs might bring it to the downside, but we do have so many other pairs. We'd rather take a look at those ones before picking or deciding something that could potentially give you issues. So hope that's clear on the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Next pair we did have was the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. Now on this pair, our bias yesterday was to look for buying opportunities, and you can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Now early in the morning, the price was within this particular area, and you can't even see what I had illustrated, hoping to see some signs of big boy buyers actually showing some interest And when we do get a pullback, we could potentially end up looking for a buying opportunity. Now you can see the price didn't manage to go to the upside. We didn't manage to get the price coming up aggressive. We get a pullback and the price came back within the same buyer's area. And if you do take note of the time, it was at 4 o'clock. Unfortunately, there were some fundamentals that did come out, which did cause this huge spike. So regardless of whether or not you enter the trade here, this one would have actually given you definitely some issues or possibly stopped you out. Because I know I did enter a small trade here. Unfortunately, was stopped out by this huge wick, but that's okay. Ideally, there will be another trade later on. You can see the market did manage to continue going up higher, managing even just to break this area to the upside slightly. But you can see as the price is pulling back down. Remember, we did mention the Canadian dollar fundamentals have changed. We could potentially find this market just ranging between these two levels. And that's the reason why it is off our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against Canadian dollar. Now, in this pair, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the three areas we had pointed out. Now, during the London session, nothing much happened. As you can see, the price is just holding within this particular area throughout the London session. Now, once the US market came in, you can see we did end up getting a probe going to the upside, or at least inciting very many people that the price is going to go to the upside. And it did manage to end up coming down. This was around 5:30 during the New York Stock Exchange. But this has mainly something to do with the euro. The euro did end up showing some weakness later on yesterday. So even though we can see the trade did work out, coming back to this support and resistance area, and if you did manage your trade there, you can clearly see it would have been the best idea. But even though today it does look like it could potentially end up continuing to go down, maybe the euro might end up trying to drag it, but you could also end up finding that since we are respecting both these levels, you could easily find the market just ranging between these two levels. So that's the reason why we will not be focusing on this pair today. Now, the next and last pair we did have yesterday for review is the US dollar against Canadian dollar. Now, in this pair, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. And you can see the US dollar really tried showing a lot of weakness. But the fact that the price has continued, or at least is trying to go up, you can definitely tell the Canadian dollar is also fighting back. However, you can see during the London market open, you can see the price did manage to come to the downside. And you can see on the pullback, the price was still holding below. And not once did the price go back to the upside and actually hold above. You can see this was just a probe where the price just came straight back in. And if you do take note of the time, that was at exactly 4 o'clock where you can see the big move to the downside. So it was the US big boys that did try to push this price down lower. But unfortunately, you can see the Canadian dollar pair was fighting back. So unfortunately for us, even though the trade worked out yesterday, it would have been a bit choppy. This is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. So that's it for all the pairs that we didn't have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. So before we do jump on to today's pairs, let's end up having a look at a few screenshots that we did manage to get. So we'll start off here with Peter Washira. Happy to see a screenshot here. You did manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity on gold. So very, very well done. You can see you got the buy within a buyer's area. Price has gone up in your favor and very good trade management. Your stop loss is above your entry, and it's below an area where the buyers have pushed to the upside. So ideally, sometimes the price can pull back to that buyer's area and still go up. So at least you are giving your trade enough space to move. So very, very well done on this trade, Peter, and keep up the great work that you're doing as well. So also next, we did get Bravin, but unfortunately here, Bravin, you did mention that you were just missed on your trade. It seems like you had a pending order here. It seems the market just missed your entry before actually going to the upside. And this is silver, so unlucky for you, because we do know they did end up going up quite aggressively. So unfortunately, but it's something we do mention. It's like fishing. Sometimes you miss the fish, sometimes you get very many. So it depends on the day, depends on the time. Sometimes you'll be lucky, sometimes you're unlucky, but that does not determine your skill in it. So very good job, Bravin. Keep up the good work. And don't worry, the next ones you'll get and you will definitely recover all that money. So let's focus on today's pairs. So we'll start off with the Japanese yen pair, mix and match them with all the pairs on the sell side, then do the same thing with the New Zealand dollar before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So starting off with the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now the yen pairs really, really did move quite aggressively yesterday. So you can see the three areas that we had pointed out. So we had these areas highlighted, although today we have adjusted the level slightly. But you can see the game plan of what we're looking at yesterday. Remember, I did point this out when the price had come all the way down here and the price was back within that buyer's area. I did point out to not start jumping in on selling opportunities just yet. Let's wait for a pullback, because you can see I did draw this blue last support and resistance area, mentioning that there's a high probability we'll come back to that same area before we do end up taking off to the downside. Now you can see during the London session, we started getting our pullback coming in. Now, sorry, apologies for that. It was actually during the US session, we got a big push to the upside. Price managed to bounce off that particular area. At 5:30, we attempted to come down, but the fact that we could not break this support and resistance area, that just meant that the US big boys did not have much interest in this. But remember, even here, the fact that we're dealing with the Australian dollar and the Japanese yen, this is a pair that's mainly active during the Asian session. So it's no surprise that the price still managed to get back to that same location during the Asian session. And you can see the price has really come down quite aggressive. And remember, we did mention that the yen pairs are very perfectly correlated. So if you do end up grabbing one trade on one, there's a high probability you could end up finding an opportunity on another pair. So today, buyers here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. But remember, do not start jumping in on yourselves just now, because you can see the sellers are the ones who have come in, but we're within an area where they're buyers. So this is not a good place to look for your selling opportunities just yet. One thing we want to see is potentially a pullback. The fact that we've broken this support and resistance area, there's a high probability we could get this pullback coming back within this particular area. Hopefully within one of the market opening times, if we do see some sort of probe or price action signal, we definitely will be looking for a selling opportunity there. But be aware, we will still be looking for sales as long as we're holding below the red support and resistance area. So hope the game plan is clear on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. As we move on to the next yen pair we do have, right here we have the British pound against the Japanese yen. Now yesterday, bias here was to look for selling opportunities. You can see early in the morning when the price was starting to come down, at least when we were discussing this early in the morning yesterday, you can see the price was within this particular area. So we needed one of two things. And you can see we did have this blue support and resistance area. Did mention, or at least we're hoping that the price could get back to that location before we're able to look for selling opportunities. It seems that, remember, yesterday we also had some British pound fundamentals that still brought in weakness. So I guess they did not have enough market to at least, or money to pull it back all the way to this particular area. So you can see it still managed to end up holding below this particular area. And you can see as the price attempted to go to the upside, it came back in and was holding below. So you can see there was a very nice probe there. We got confirmation that the price is actually holding below that area. And if you do take note of the time, that was at exactly 5:30. And if you didn't manage to grab a nice selling opportunity there, you can clearly see that the market has really gone down in your favor. But today, buyers here is still going to be looking for these selling opportunities. You can see the main sellers are right here at the top. So as long as we're holding below the red support and resistance area, our buyers here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. It's a similar story. Right now, we've found a particular buyer's area. So the main thing we do want is a pullback to come in. And at least that's what we're seeing coming in right now. So if you can see some sort of slowdown, some sort of probe or price action signal within this support and resistance area, could end up getting a potential selling opportunity here. But remember, if you can see, take note of the time yesterday at 5:30, the Australian dollar against the yen, the British pound against the yen, they did react at that exact same time. So chances are all the other yens did something similar as well. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on that one. And as we move on to the next yen pair. So here we have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. Similar situation yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Early in the morning, around 9 o'clock, the price was within this particular area. We had just seen this move to the downside. So we needed one of two things. We're hoping to see a pullback coming in back within that support and resistance area for us to look for ourselves. Unfortunately, the buyers could not really take it that much higher, but you can see later on the price broke the downside and was holding below. And remember, this time, if you do take note of the timing, around this time was around midday. So the London big boys were attempting to actually try and go down lower. But the fact that you can clearly see here that throughout the London session, so from London, so London 11 was around there until US, you can see that the market did not do anything. So that means the big boys during the London session were not interested. However, you can see at 4 o'clock, price still came back towards that area before actually coming to the downside and continuing to go down lower. Similar situation as you can see as we had the next support and resistance area here. The price did manage to go down during the Asian session. That's if you were trading it there. But even though the trade worked out very nicely, our bias today is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. We are starting to see those pullbacks coming in. So don't just end up entering a selling opportunity once you see the price approaching that area. Remember, wait to see some sort of slowdown. Because right now, even though we can see the sellers have really come down aggressive, you can clearly see the buyers do seem to be struggling. But this is just a sign that everyone right now will start jumping in on selling opportunity. And if you're jumping in on your sells, most likely your stop loss is going to be up there. Most of the time, if that's the case, remember, these big boy sellers, they want to sell. And if you have your buy right here, when you have your stop loss here, that's basically the opposite of your trade. So if you're buying here, basically you have many sell orders right here. And if the big boy sees that, that's the reason why sometimes you find the prices will spike to that area before actually going to the downside. So right here, even though our bias here is still going to be looking for sells, don't be surprised if the price comes within this area, maybe spikes before actually coming back in. And if you do see the price holding below, then you definitely would be able to find a very nice selling opportunity here on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So we wait to see what ends up happening. And remember, you can use correlation because you can see all of the other pairs are also pulling back and they are starting to pull back slowly. So we wait to see what happens then. Now, moving on to the next yen pair, we do have the euro against the Japanese yen. Similar situation yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. It seems that the levels we had were quite small because you can clearly see we had a level right there, here, and within this particular area. But you can see when we're discussing the market early in the morning, it was within this area. We're hoping to see some sort of pullback, but it seems that the euro was also quite weak and the yen was strong. Usually when that happens, you hardly end up getting much pullback. So in this situation, that's exactly what happened. The price managed to continue coming down lower. Once it reached and was holding below this area, there could have been an opportunity there. And remember, we did point out like the other pairs at 5:30, that's when the market did end up taking off to the downside. So overall today, although we can see it has really gone down, our bias is pretty much the same, or at least the story is the same for all these yen pairs. Our bias is definitely going to be looking for sells, but we're waiting for this pullback to come in and slow down. So the fact that we are starting to see it coming in, it's a very good pair, at least it's a pair of interest right now for us. Let's wait to see what kind of sort of reaction we do end up getting within one of these two areas. So let's see right here. So I guess let me just illustrate quickly. So you could end up seeing something like that, the market giving us some sort of probe or price action signal. Probes are end up being very, very good entry criteria. So as I did mention yesterday, they do really incite the opposite party to come in, and it gives you also a good location of where to put your stop loss as well. So moving on to the next yen pair, we do have right here, we have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Similar situation with the euro, the US dollar was very, very weak. So you can see even early in the morning when we're discussing, our levels were all the way up at the top, but it seems that the market was really coming down aggressive. It showed us confirmation that the price was holding below before it managed to continue coming down. You can see similar situation at 4 o'clock during the US market open. It got more strength to continue coming down, as well as during the Asian session to come down as well. So bias here, you can clearly see the US dollar is very weak. The yen is quite strong. So overall, we'll still be looking for selling opportunities on this. And we'll be focusing on these three areas. So right now, you realize the price has pulled back to this support and resistance area. And most people might start jumping in on selling opportunities. Do not just jump in on a sell just yet. Wait for some sort of entry criteria and also line it up with the news. So right now, we know what we have basically a lot of fundamentals at 10 and at 11 o'clock. So that's the Frankfurt market open and the London market open. But remember, if you do find some nice opportunities there and it lines up with one of those times, then your trade, at least it increases the probability of your trade working out. So hope that is clear on the US dollar against the Japanese yen as we move on to the next and last yen pair that we do have. So here we have the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen, and this is a brand new entry on our watch list, mainly because the Canadian dollar as well as the Japanese yen were both on the same side of our watch list yesterday. But the fact that things have switched today we can end up looking for some selling opportunities. We can clearly see across the board, the yen pairs are showing strength everywhere. So right now, as the price has come down, we are starting to get a pullback. Let's see how far that pullback can come in. If it comes in within this area, and we do see some entry criteria there, we could definitely look for selling opportunities. But if you do not see anything on this particular area, and you have a look at the other yen pairs and you find the price reaching and holding above, then there's a high probability it could even come all the way to the top, or watch out for areas where sellers have reacted from before. So the fact that sellers did push down from here, even though we're focused on this level, you can end up finding maybe the market might pull back all the way to that particular level. And you can notice that's the same thing on all the other yen pairs where there is, just move this level right here, there is a certain area where the price has spiked from before. So at least be wary of that. So hope that's clear on all the yen pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match the Japanese yen with all the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to move on to the New Zealand dollar and do the exact same thing. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So on this pair yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Unfortunately, the sell did not really work out for us. It seems that the market, or at least the Australian dollar pairs, were still on the pullback. As you can see, during the London market open or the Frankfurt market open, we did end up attempting to try and come down. We could not necessarily go much lower than this particular buyer's area before the price did continue to go to the upside. As you can see, the price breached and was holding above this particular area during the US market open, or even during the New York Stock Exchange open. Apologies for that. And you can see the price did manage to continue going up higher to the extreme area based on even the illustration that we had pointed out yesterday. But you can see we did end up getting a very nice probe right here where the market did look as if it was breaking this area to the upside, but we came back in and we are getting evidence that the price is still holding below that particular area. So overall, we'll still be looking for these selling opportunities based on these three areas. So the aggressive area, sellers area right there at the top. So right now, as you can see, the sellers have come down. We are within a buyer's area, so it's no surprise that the buyers are going to come back in. But what we want to see is the buyer starting to struggle and potentially seeing some sort of sign that the sellers are really coming in, especially if you see aggressive sellers, just wait for some sort of small pullback, and you could definitely end up finding a very nice selling opportunity within that location. But be aware, if you do miss that trade, there's still the opportunity of if the price is able to break this area to the downside and it holds below, then we could potentially look for a selling opportunity, and especially if it lines up with one of the market opening times. Similar situation to what happened yesterday, although yesterday, due to the fact that we're looking for selling opportunities, that was not a trade that we'd be looking for. So hope that's clear on the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. Moving on to the next New Zealand dollar pair we do have. Right here, we have the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. And you can see during the Frankfurt market open, we did end up getting an attempt, or at least a push to the downside. That was based on the fundamentals that were there yesterday for the British pound. But you can see later on, we did bounce up, coming back to the main seller's area. This was during the US market open. And you can see the price did manage to continue coming down lower. Fortunately, not necessarily all the way to the bottom. One thing to take note of, since we're still respecting the same areas and the fact that the market is bouncing off just between two levels, then you definitely know this price is definitely ranging. At least the market is ranging between these two levels. So right now, the fact that we're within a seller's area, don't necessarily just jump in on a sell. Remember, wait for some sort of probe or price action signal or something that's showing you that the sellers, the big boy sellers, are interested. If you do manage to see that, then you can definitely look for a selling opportunity here. But be aware, we will still be looking for sells as long as we're holding below the red support and resistance area. Only if the price breaks and falls above that area will the sells be off for us on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. So I hope the game plan is clear. Let's wait to see what happens and what kind of reaction, due to the fact that, remember, we do have some British pound fundamentals that are coming out in 30 minutes at 10 o'clock, some GDP news. So this is going to be a lot of volatility on the chart. We'll not necessarily advise you to just jump in on a trade, because usually sometimes you find the market spike could easily get stopped out at first. Just watch the news, wait to see what happens. Unless you are already in on a trade, then it's now just a matter of you managing it, just in case the market does go against you. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next New Zealand dollar pair we do have. Right here is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, remember, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today. And the buys did work out quite a bit. Remember, yesterday I had pointed out, I think we need to go to the 1 hour time frame. Did the same thing yesterday, where we did see the buyers going up quite aggressive. We did see a pullback coming in. And I did point out that the price was holding within this small support and resistance area, and we could end up seeing the buyers were working up from here. But remember, I did point out that the one thing we want to see is aggressive, or at least it's a sign of aggressive buyers coming in. And you can see at 11 o'clock, or in fact at 10 o'clock during the Frankfurt market open, we did get that big push to the upside. So we definitely knew the buyers were interested within this particular price. But remember, don't just start jumping in on your buys all the way at the top. Wait for a pullback. As you can see this illustration, although I did end up only drawing it till here, it seems that the market really went much further. However, the idea is still the same. And you can see that the price pulled back, it came back towards the buyer's area. And if you do take note of the time, that was at exactly 4 o'clock. So the timing that we keep on mentioning also helps with your timing of when you should actually enter your trade. So you can see at 4 o'clock, the market didn't manage to go to the upside. Unfortunately, could not get all the way till the top. It seems like we found some sort of small support and resistance area here. So this is definitely an area we should take note of. As you can see later on, we did get that pullback coming in, price holding above, and it did end up attempting to go up, but that level still held again. However, the fact that it still remains that overall we are still within a buyer's market, and we will still be looking for buying opportunities based on these three areas. So the main buyer's areas are right here. at least the major support and resistance areas. But we do need to take note of these areas, because you could end up easily finding that this market might end up attempting to just start ranging between these two levels. You could end up definitely seeing the market has bounced off these areas. So don't be surprised that we might still end up finding some sort of reaction within this area again to go to the upside. But we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next New Zealand dollar pair. So right here, we have the euro against the New Zealand dollar. I remember I did point out that the euro pairs did end up showing quite a bit of weakness. I think we also had a look at the euro against Canadian dollar, and we did see it actually go to the downside. You can see yesterday during the London market open, so in fact, this was during the Frankfurt market open, we did get a push to the downside. Now, even though the push came to the downside, we could not get the price going all the way down lower. At 11 o'clock, price was back in a buyer's area. So it seems that the London big boys were more interested in actually giving us a pullback. Unfortunately, could not get all the way back to the main seller's area, but it came back to the seller that actually pushed to the downside. And to take note of the timing, that was at exactly 4 o'clock, where it did manage to grab a nice selling opportunity. Price was back within an area where the sellers can see the price did manage to continue going down all the way to the bottom area that we did point out. So today, the buyers here is still going to be looking for these selling opportunities. We'll focus on the same three areas that we did have yesterday. So right now, the fact that the price is bouncing off this particular buyer's area, we want to see what ends up happening within this location. So we'll just remove this for now. So right now, it looks as if the price has broken this area to the upside. So what most people might actually start doing is jumping in on buys. But if we do see the sellers, let's say, coming in aggressive, we see the price holding below, we should be able to find a very nice selling opportunity available for us on the euro against the New Zealand dollar. But remember, we also could end up getting the price coming back all the way to the red support and resistance area. But that is the line in the sun, because if the price breaks and falls above this red support and resistance area, this pair will fall off our watch list and will no longer be looking for selling opportunities here. So hope that's clear on the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Moving on to the next New Zealand dollar pair we do have. Right here, we have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. Now, during the London market open, or in fact, during the Frankfurt market open at 10 o'clock, you can see a big push to the upside. Now, what we wanted to see, and you can't even see based on the illustration, luckily it went all the way to the top there, wanted to see the price actually holding above this area. Unfortunately, that did not happen. As you can see, it managed to continue coming down lower. And this is a way that we keep on pointing out. Knowing the time that you're actually taking the trade does end up helping you, or it can end up also helping you avoid taking a trade at the wrong time. Because if you just manage to end up seeing this move to the upside and you wanted to jump in on a buying opportunity here, yes, you could have jumped in on a buy, but if you did take note at the time, and that was around 2 o'clock or going to 3 o'clock, there was no big boy who could actually take that market. But the fact that you can see the price pulled back all the way back to a buyer's area, and if you just took that trade at 4 o'clock, you would have easily gotten a very nice risk to reward on your trade as well. So today, buyers here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. We could potentially be attempting to end up entering a sort of small range, because we have identified this market seems to be bouncing these two levels quite a bit. You can see there was a huge probe right there, and it got confirmation that due to the fact that the price actually held below that particular area. So overall here, we'll definitely still be looking for buying opportunities. Let's wait to see if we can end up getting the price coming back all the way down to the red support and resistance area. If it can, then we'll definitely look for our buying opportunities here. But if not, and we do see the price giving us some sort of probe where the price shows us confirmation it's holding above, then definitely we can be able to look for buying opportunities on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar as well. So let's move on to the next and last New Zealand dollar pair we do have. So this is a brand new entry on our watch list, and this is the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. Now, overall here, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. One thing we have definitely taken note of is it is bouncing off these two levels, and it has been doing it for the past 2 days. That ideally means that this market is ranging, and since we are looking for buys, most people should know within a range, the best place to look for your buy is at the bottom of the range. So if we do end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal within this particular area, we definitely can be able to look for buying opportunities there. But be aware, due to the fact that quickly go to the 1 hour time frame, the fact that the market has been holding within this particular area, those who have done the one-on-one and the AMP will notice that this does seem like a very good potential opportunity for a trade. But even though we're watching out for these two levels, there is a possibility. You can see we have a blue support and resistance area right there, but the price can still pull back all the way down towards this particular blue support and resistance area that we do have within here. So even though we have the extreme areas, don't be surprised that we could end up easily finding the market giving us some sort of pullback, showing us evidence is holding below, and we see some sort of reaction within here before the market does go to the upside. So just took note of the timing. So you could find that at 4 o'clock, the price is here, then this might be the level. If you find at 4 o'clock, the price is within this particular area right here where the blue support and resistance area is, then you know that that potentially is the area where the market might be. Or if at 4 o'clock you find it at the bottom, you definitely know that's the location. So just take note of that. It's not just about the area, it's also about the exact time that the market could potentially end up. So I hope that's clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the pairs on the buy side. All the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to have a look at the indices before we do end up having a look at gold and silver. So starting off with the indices, we'll start off with the NASDAQ, the NAS 100. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to actually look for selling opportunities. Now, if we do end up going quickly to the 1 hour time frame, our focus was this main seller right here. So you can see there was a big seller right here who had pushed this price down lower. So as long as we're holding below that area, you can see the price had approached that area before we were still looking for sales. The only time we could end up looking for buys is once that level was broken. And you can see that's exactly what ended up happening yesterday. So if you do end up going up, down to the smaller time frame to see what happened exactly, you can see yesterday we wanted to see one of two things. Since we're within an area where the buyers, we needed either to pull back the downside or breach the downside and the price holding below for us to look for those sells. But you can see during the Asian session, there was hardly any activity, which is no surprise due to the fact that this is a US indice, so it's mainly active during the US session. Similar situation during the London session, hardly any activity. But if you do take note of at 4 o'clock, the price really just shot to the upside. So this one would have been a bit difficult to end up grabbing. We're hoping to see if the price was able to actually give us a pullback to this area. Can't say it just slightly came shy, but we could have potentially looked for a buying opportunity there. Remember, with the indices as well as gold and silver were purely technical, meaning if the price ends up breaking the red support and resistance area to either side, ideally we will switch our bias. So today, the bias here now is going to be looking for buying opportunities, especially once it breaks that location, we were looking for buys. So we'll be focusing on these 3 areas to look for these potential buying opportunities. The potential that the price could continue going to the upside, but ideally for us, the main thing we always want to see is a pullback. Ideally, when you end up going to a shop, you won't just ask for something that's the most expensive price or at least the highest price. You'll always ask for a discount. So it's a similar situation. Don't necessarily negotiate too much with the market, but ideally, if you want to buy something, ask for at least a bit less so you are able to sell it once the price gets back to where it was or even a bit higher. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening here, but remember, there's still also the possibility, especially if you see the sellers, since they're not necessarily doing much. The price breaks to the upside, we get the price holding below, above that area. And remember, let's line up with the market opening times. You could find a very nice buying opportunity on the NAS 100. So moving on to the next thing you see we do have here, we have the Dow Jones or the US 30. So yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. But remember, we did also point out the price was within this particular seller's area right here, but we did not necessarily see that aggressive seller coming in. And you can see based on the illustration we pointed out, wanted to see some sign of aggressive sellers in order for us to sell. Just because we're within a seller's area doesn't mean it's just time to sell. We need to see some sort of indication that the big boys are actually interested then. You can see no interest in the big boys that actually reached the upside. You can see the price was actually holding above. Unfortunately, we could not necessarily get a pullback. We're hoping to see if we could get a pullback back within that area. That would have been the ideal place to actually look for your buying opportunity. But unfortunately, that did not happen. You can clearly see the price just took off from a slightly higher price, which is okay. So today, the bias here is definitely still going to be looking for these buying opportunities. But as you can see, we're within an area where there's sellers. So it's not necessarily the best place to look for your buy. It doesn't improve your probability of your trade working out, even though we can see the sellers are not necessarily doing much, similar to yesterday. But we still would want to see either one of two things, either the pullback coming in potentially within this support and resistance area for us to look for a buying opportunity there, or we could end up easily finding the price breaking this area to the upside. If we are able to get this pullback coming in and it lines up within the market opening time. Remember, in this situation, since this is the indices, mainly the two times that you should be focusing on is 4 and 5:30. So that's 8 a.m. in the US as well as 9:30 a.m. in the US. Since 9:30 a.m. is when the New York Stock Exchange does end up opening. So let's see what ends up happening here. But overall, that is the game plan for the Dow Jones. So moving on to silver. Now, silver yesterday and gold, they worked out very, very, very nicely. So yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Early in the morning, the price was just within this area. Did mention that we want to see aggressive buyers coming in, and on the pullback, we could potentially end up looking for our buying opportunity. And you can see that's exactly what happened. We do take note of the time. That was at exactly 4 o'clock. But you can see if you didn't manage to grab a buying opportunity there, even if you had your stop loss within that location, that would have been some very, very good risk reward. You can see we also did get the slight option when the price broke this area to the upside. There was a slight hold to the upside. We think that is maybe visible on the 3-minute time frame. So you can see nicely where the price was holding within this area. Look at how many attempts it tried to go to the upside. Not once did the price hold. All of these were just probes that were happening. The only time that the price managed to break to the upside is once it did this, and once it was holding above, that could have been an actual buying opportunity. Although in terms of the timing, so around 8:30, 7:30, maybe might have been a bit difficult in terms of when to actually get that trade. But we can clearly see you need to wait for a breach and a hold of a level to actually take those trades. So in this situation today, buyers is definitely still going to be looking for buying opportunities. We've adjusted the levels slightly. So overall, we will be looking for buys as long as we're holding above the red support and resistance area. Remember, yesterday the red SNR was down here, but now since the market has moved, we will be following the zone, and this will be the line in the sand for us, meaning the price can still pull back all the way down till within this area, and it will still be for a buy. The only time we're going to look for sales is once the price breaks and holds below. That's when we will actually now start looking for selling opportunities. But for now, let's wait to see what ends up happening. Since we're within an area where the sellers, one of two things can happen. The sellers might decide that they're not interested. And if they're not, we could easily find that the market could end up breaking this area to the upside. Similar situation to what happened yesterday. On the pullback, we could end up grabbing that buying opportunity. But alternatively, since we are within a seller's area, the main thing we would want is a pullback. So hopefully we can end up getting this pullback coming in within this support and resistance area. Hopefully getting some sort of probe or price action signal to actually take the market up higher within that particular location. So hope the game plan is clear on silver, and apologies, Bravin, you did seem to have lost out quite a bit on this, but don't worry, there will be more opportunities today. So moving on to the next pair we do have, the last pair, which is gold. Now on gold, yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today. In fact, we will still be respecting the exact same areas that we did have yesterday, because you can see the market has not actually broken any of those areas. However, the trade worked out quite nicely yesterday, or at least our game plan yesterday, due to the fact that you can see early in the morning, the price looked as if it was breaking this area to the upside. But remember, we wanted to see if we could end up grabbing our buying opportunity within this buyer's area. So at 11 o'clock, the price did continue going to the upside. It looks as if it was actually going to go all the way till the top. Unfortunately, could not. You can see later on, and this was during the US session. So at 4, we did end up getting a small push to the upside before the sellers came in. And you can see at 5:30, that's when the price was back within this buyer's area. So if you timed your trade at that point in time, you can clearly see if you manage your trade at the top, you'd have ended up making some good money on gold. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. Just because of approach the seller's area doesn't mean that we cannot look for buys just yet. The main thing we want to see is potentially a pullback coming in. Could pull back to this support and resistance area before we look for buying opportunities, or it could end up waiting for the price reaching this area to the upside. And if we do get the price actually holding above, then we should be able to look for buying opportunities as well on gold. So I hope that is clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side. So I guess that is it from me and from us. Remember, we do have some aggressive, or at least a lot of fundamentals coming out today, some very high impact news. As you can see, there was some unemployment news for the Australian dollar early in the morning, but we have some GDP news, some industrial production. We have some CPI fundamentals for the euro, which we do end up expecting will bring in that volatility, as well as during the US session, we do have a lot of fundamentals. So we do end up expecting some movements on the charts today, and then that volatility will definitely give us opportunities. So I guess that's it from me, from us. I hope you guys have found so much value in these sessions. Remember, if you do have any questions, queries, suggestions of how you want us to actually do these sessions, if there's certain information you would like us to know or add, please let us know in the comments as well. It would really be appreciated. We do end up going through them. But remember also, if you do want to be notified whenever we're live, do make sure you like, subscribe, and also ring that bell notification. At least we will be notified when we do go live. So I guess that's it from me and from us. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have an amazing trading day. God bless. Happy trading and bye for now. Cheers.